Oh hey, I'm currently in the process of conducting a list for the best Street Fighter characters, but don't want to sound too biased. So far I only have the characters that I personally believe are better than everyone else's, and no amount of blackmailing is going to change my mind. Okay, maybe just this once.
Street Fighter 6 is on the horizon, and while we basically know everything about what it has to offer, including its social security number and the starting character roster, I thought it'd be a good idea to go over the characters I'd personally like to see later on as DLC, since again, the entire starting roster was shown off quicker than a newborn baby shedding its first tear. I should also point out that some of the characters on this list aren't going to be exclusive to just Street Fighter, as I feel that these characters could be incorporated in some way to where they feel more natural with Street Fighter's gameplay, both for casual and competitive play. I should also point out again that these are characters I would personally want to see in the game as DLC. Not that they have to be in the game, or Capcom better put them in or else. Just characters I think would be really cool to have in the game. So with that out of the way, let's see the characters I'm most likely gonna have to beat up. Please come home. Makoto has been a character I've been interested in since Street Fighter 3rd Strike, and while she was playable in Super Street Fighter 4, I don't really feel like they did her any justice there. Like, sure she plays well, but aside from that, what other reason did she really have for being there? In fact, what real reason did any of the Street Fighter 3 characters have for being there aside from getting into a fight? I feel like with Street Fighter 6, they could finally give Makoto some much needed spotlight, and with Street Fighter 3 taking place before Street Fighter 6, we could finally see what Makoto is all about now, especially since there seems to be a bit of a rivalry between her, Ibuki, and Ryu, so having that fleshed out a bit more would be really cool. Also, if she is in Street Fighter 6, please give her a makeover. What she has in both Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 3 are fine, as it is karate attire and that's her fighting style. I do think it's time for her to wear something else. Also, while we're still here, why not have Ibuki as well? I think she and Makoto would fit perfectly here with all new designs and updated movesets, so yeah, I want to see these two brought back. Oh man, Akira from Rival Schools. Later being added as a DLC character for Street Fighter V Champion Edition, Akira has one of the more fun movesets in that game that I think can be exploited pretty well in Street Fighter 6. Plus she's a non-Street Fighter character that isn't from Final Fight. I think that's a pretty good step in the right direction. Aside from Rival Schools, Street Fighter V was the only other instance in which we've seen her, so I think having her in Street Fighter 6 being a little older and having a more improved moveset with a new gameplay style would be f***ing sweet. Feilong, how has it been so long since I've seen you? He was one of my favorites back in Super Street Fighter 2, then later being playable in Super Street Fighter 4, and we haven't seen him since, which is kind of sad when you think about it, because I found him to be really cool and fun with a pretty decent playstyle. I think having him in Street Fighter 6 would help more people get to know him and gravitate towards his moveset. Plus, with this being a new game, they could even enhance his moveset and give him entirely new moves, like fighting with nunchucks or something. Elena. I have a soft spot for this one. Even if she isn't the most fun character to have in my opinion, I still think it'd be pretty cool to see her in Street Fighter 6. She uses the capoeira fighting style, which is a mixture of both breakdancing and martial arts, and I think it's a nice balance to have in Street Fighter 6. There's already one character that seems to incorporate breakdancing within his own fighting style that isn't capoeira, so why not have Elena here as well? If we can have multiple characters with the exact same fighting style and similar control schemes like Ryu, Ken, and Akuma for instance, I think Elena being here with the more traditional take on the whole breakdancing martial arts would feel right at home. Maki from Final Fight 2, haven't heard that name in a while, have you, Capcom? She is a very underused character, only appearing in Final Fight 2, Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, and nothing else. Which is why I want her back in this game. Like, come on, we got Cody and Lucy in Street Fighter 5, but no Final Fight 2 representation? What's up with that? I think Street Fighter 6 is the perfect opportunity to give her as well as Final Fight 2 a bit more love. It'd be really cool to see how she would fare in a more modern Street Fighter setting. I could see her and Kimberly having a bit of chemistry / little rivalry, plus she's a blonde ninja and I really like that. Terry Bogard. I don't know, I just like him. I think Capcom is overdue for another crossover like this. I haven't seen a non-Capcom character in a Street Fighter game since Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and that was god awful. I think Terry would make a great addition to the roster. He has a similar playstyle to Street Fighter characters, he adds more diversity, and is just overall a really cool character. I also want his inclusion to have meaning, like have him interact with characters and give him his own story that connects to the world in some way. Alex needs to be in Street Fighter 6. He was the frontman for the new generation of characters in Street Fighter 3, and while we already have another new face for the new generation of new characters in the form of Luke, it'd be great if we had Alex too. I like the idea of Alex being the front man for the Street Fighter cast more than Luke, honestly. Nothing against him, it's just Capcom set this whole thing up with Alex back in 1997, and with Street Fighter 6 taking place after Street Fighter 3 in the canonical timeline, it just makes more sense in my opinion to keep Alex because he's more known than Luke is. I feel like Alex should have been in the base roster the moment the game was announced, but I can settle for DLC. Dudley is a man of class, he cares about the elegance of boxing, and thus, I want him in Street Fighter 6. He's such a breath of fresh air compared to the other Boxer characters because he actually cares about the sport and isn't throwing punches just to throw punches. He has a sense of character to him, he's respectful, a gentleman, elegant, and rich. I'd like for him to have an updated moveset as well, and not to say that his previous moveset was bad, it was actually pretty good in my opinion. I really mean just give him some new moves to show some growth with his boxing, like new specials or supers or something. Also, since it seems like Ed may be Balrog's replacement, maybe him and Dudley could be potential rivals.
My money's on the big guy!
It's time for even more diversity, alright? We need more stretchy armed characters, and thus, I'm putting Necro up to the task. He's an interesting one, he was a failed human experiment, and with him being so, gave him a whole lot of bullshit. I never really liked fighting him in Street Fighter 3 because he has so much reach with his arms on top of being able to electrocute you if you got too close, so if we're being technical here, he's basically what would happen if Blanca and Dalsim had a child. That still doesn't change the fact that I find him interesting to say the least. I want to know more about him and how far Capcom is willing to go with the guy. How far can his arms stretch? How strong is he? Where would he be in the current timeline? All questions that I know Street Fighter 6 would be able to answer if they just put him in the damn game. Another character I'd love to see in Street Fighter 6 is Jin Kazama from the Tekken series. We already know that Street Fighter and Tekken are in the same universe, hence Street Fighter Cross Tekken and Akuma's inclusion in Tekken 7, but there's never been a Tekken character in a mainline Street Fighter game, and I want that to change. I want to see a Tekken character with Street Fighter's gameplay style, only not this Street Fighter's gameplay style. I feel like Jin would be a pretty good fit, mainly because I want to see him get more love with crossovers like this, plus with how Street Fighter 6's gameplay looks, I feel like Jin would be pretty damn good. I know Kazuya would have been the obvious choice as well, but they already put him in Smash Brothers, so let Jin have this. While we're still here, I figured I'd give some honorable mentions before getting into the last couple of characters, so with that being said, time for a lightning round. C. Viper, we haven't seen her in a very long time. I believe her last playable appearance was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Rufus, I don't really care that much about him, but he has a pretty hot girlfriend, so why not? Abel, I don't really have that much to say about him, I just want him back. Laura, I actually really liked her in Street Fighter 5, so I want her back in 6. Vega, Street Fighter just wouldn't feel the same without him. Sagat, same thing. Q, that's all you need to know. Karin, I think she's really cool and would love to see more of her in Street Fighter 6. Ling Xiaoyu, she's another Tekken character, so why not have her in the game? Asuka Kazama, same thing as Xiaoyu. Remy, he was in Street Fighter 3rd Strike and nothing else. Poison, it's f***ing Poison. Mai Shiranui, I want to see her and Chun-Li fight as rivals. Mike Hager, he's never been playable in a Street Fighter game ever, so this could be his big chance. Gil, he was the main antagonist of Street Fighter 3. And lastly, Guy, because I'm upset that he wasn't in Street Fighter 5. I think that sums up most of the honorable mentions I wanted to get out of the way. I could have gone even further and said I wanted Hinata Hyuga from Naruto, but I'm not gonna be that crazy. Sakura, come on, this one was obvious. She's got a much more unique twist on the fighting style Ryu and Ken have, considering it was a lot more unrefined and lacking compared to them, but still charming nonetheless. In Street Fighter 5, we saw a different side of Sakura. We saw her finally start to grow up with a charming story, good looking design, and a still unrefined but more refined moveset. I want to see what Street Fighter 6 does with her next, as in Street Fighter 5, her whole thing was finding out what she was fighting for, and while it seems like she resolved that at the end of her story, Capcom could still do so much more. She could be a martial arts teacher, or a traveler like Ryu, or hell, even a serious competitive fighter this time around. I think the possibilities with her in Street Fighter 6 are damn near limitless, but that all depends on Capcom and whether or not they decide to put her in the game, so I want to say this, Capcom, please put her in the damn game. It's finally time for the final character, the last stretch, the main character I want to see in Street Fighter 6. Alexander Graham Bell. Sean from the Street Fighter 3 series, arguably one of my most favorite Street Fighter characters of all time, and one of the most unused characters of all time. They haven't touched this guy in over 2 decades, and that is such a shame because I feel like out of nearly everyone in the Street Fighter series, he has some of the most potential, but Capcom just won't do anything with him. Now, to be fair, all games that came out after Street Fighter 3 take place before then, so I can kinda see why. But at the same time, that doesn't really excuse the other Street Fighter 3 characters being playable in games like Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. Like, come on Capcom, stop being stingy. The most we've gotten of Sean since Street Fighter 3 were in Street Fighter 5 cutscenes, and even those didn't do him any justice. I want him back in Street Fighter 6 better than ever, and I mean better than ever. I want Capcom to pull no expenses with Sean. I'm talking a much more serious design that helps Sean stand out in the crowd, a more refined version of his moveset with all new super and special moves, and most importantly, a much better story explaining where he is currently in the timeline. I think that'd be the greatest thing Capcom could ever do for him. Also, if you do decide to put him in, I'd love to see more interactions with him and Ken, and maybe a potential rivalry with him and Sakura if you decide to put her in as well.
So in retrospect, conducting a list of the best Street Fighter characters in a way that doesn't make me come off as biased might not have been the best idea that I've had, but I can at least say for certain that I'm a man of my word, and I honestly believe that Street Fighter 6 needs to have Alex in it. Come on, Capcom, I'd kill a man for that.